Mike Elko announced that Texas A&M running back Le'Veon Moss is done for the year. Where do the Aggies go from here at the position?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Ladies and gentlemen, not a great start to the week if you're a Texas A&M fan, knowing that yesterday in his press conference, Coach Elko announced Le'Veon Moss is done for the year. Looking at this, it really is an issue knowing how good of a player Le'Veon Moss is. I mean, Le'Veon Moss was looking like one of the better, a top 5 for sure, top 3 even, running back in the SEC. And now because of the knee injury he suffered against South Carolina on Saturday, you're not going to have him the rest of the year. This is a little disappointing knowing that Coach Elko came out the other day and said, hey, I don't think, he basically said, I don't, after the game, he said, it's not great, but I don't think it's as bad as it looked on TV. And I heard that and I thought maybe this is a 1 to 2 week thing where you got your bye week and you play New Mexico State. Maybe you have him back for Auburn. You maybe for sure have him back for Texas. That was kind of the hope I had. And obviously that's not the case, as Coach Elko announced Moss is done for the year. Hate that for Moss. I mean, I think he'd made himself some money this year. I think there's a chance he could have gone pro. And maybe he still can, depending on what, the injury is. I still haven't seen. I've just seen that he's out for the year. We know it's a knee injury, but what kind of knee injury? So the question then becomes, where do you go from here at the position? So that leaves you with 2 scholarship running backs in Amari Daniels and EJ Smith. If you really think about it, you're now down 2 great running backs on this roster. You lost Reuben Owens to start the season. You lost him before the year even started. And now you've lost Le'Veon Moss for the year, which is unfortunate. As I've told you, Le'Veon Moss has proved to be a top 5, maybe even top 3 SEC back. I think Reuben Owens would have been a guy that would have been up there in the top 10 as well. I think you've lost 2 of the better running backs in the conference so far this season. Now, obviously, you lost Reuben Owens in the offseason, but you lost Le'Veon Moss in the regular season. But still, I mean, it really hurts to lose talent like this throughout the year. I think Texas A&M has been pretty injury fortunate this year. I mean, there's no such thing. Everybody loses. You lose Tariq Chappelle. You've lost valuable players on this team, but still, you lose Mark DeMue. But the point is, you've lost valuable players on this team throughout this season so far. There's no question about that. But at the same time, I think you've been relatively injury fortunate this year. It now feels like that's starting to run out, knowing you've lost your 2 elite running backs. I mean, that's just really hard to overcome, losing a Le'Veon Moss and losing a Reuben Owens. Luckily, you are 3 deep at that position. And I think EJ Smith, one thing we talked about this offseason, Locked On college football host Spencer McLaughlin, I talked to him this summer, and he talked about EJ Smith. Hey, listen, he's a guy that if you use him right can be a great player. And, EJ Smith, I don't think he's going to be a world beater, but I don't think he's knowing that you are down 2 running backs for the year and he's your RB2, you could be doing a lot worse is what I'm kind of arguing here. So we know who Amari Daniels is. He's a great running back. I think that, Le'Veon Moss is a better player. I like Le'Veon Moss better, but I also think that you're incredibly fortunate that your 3rd running back is the guy that, led your team in rushing last year. Amari Daniels is a solid running back. He's had a pretty good year. I've talked about there being some yards per carry issues, last year. And early in the year. He's playing better, though. I think he week by week, he's looking better and better and better. And obviously, it's unfortunate that you've suffered an injury. That is all terrible, terrible news. But at the same time, if you want to take a positive away, it would be the fact that you have a guy in Amari Daniels who is starting to play a little bit better. So, I mean, if you look on the year, Le'Veon Moss was going to hit 1,000 yards. He had 765 yards. He still had, he would have played against New Mexico. He would have played against Auburn. I think he has 100 in both of those games, and I believe he has 50 to 100, 75 to 100 against Texas. So he had 300 yards left in him. He was going to hit 1,000. And he had a full game. He got hurt in the beginning. He played 3 snaps against South Carolina. He plays that full game. He probably has another 70 yards there. I mean, he would have had 1,000-yard year. Now, luckily, Amari Daniels has played a big role. He has 94 carries on the year. If you really look at the numbers now, once again, he played the full South Carolina game, basically because Moss only played 3 snaps. He played the full South Carolina game, but he's got 94 carries compared to Le'Veon Moss's 121. Point there is very simple. He is going to get the he's been getting the ball and he's going to continue to get the ball. He's got 94 carries for 466 yards, 5 yards per carry. He's got a 56-yard run on the year. He's got 6 touchdowns, okay? He has 6 touchdowns. We need to remember that Amari Daniels is a solid running back. And I believe that, yes, I believe there's a drop-off. I'm not going to convince you there's not a drop-off. And this is bad. I don't want this to come off like, oh, we're fine. It's not a big deal. No, this is a big, big problem for Texas A&M. But, I try to look at as negatives as positively as possible, which is hard to do in this situation. So for those that say, well, Andrew's always never negative about anything, this is really bad. This to me hurts your chances against Texas. This hurts your chances of making the playoff. This hurts your chances of everything. There's no question about that. This is an all-around issue for everybody. But looking at the only positive you can look at it as is, I think, knowing that Texas A&M is down to their 3rd and 4th string running backs, I think you could be doing a lot worse than you are. That is what I'm arguing. That's my positive takeaway here. It's hard to find one, but if I had to try and find one, that would be it. Now, the question is, do we see Terry Bussey get involved at running back? We know he's taken reps there before. We know he's taken some reps there in the offseason. Now that you're thin at the running back position, do we see the freshman gadget guy, Swiss Army knife, do we see him take some more reps at running back? I think there's a chance at that. I really do. That's not smoke and mirrors to me. I really believe there's a chance that they use Terry Bussey some as a running back. I believe there's a chance he gets some more snaps. I just think that's the way that I would try and use him, knowing the type of player he is and knowing, who he is and how good he can be. I just think that he's a guy with a ton of upside. He's that guy that if you can just get the football in his hands, you're putting yourself in a really good spot. And so get the football in Terry Bussey's hands. I think he can do special things. Even on the year, he's averaging. Now, obviously, these are gadget plays. They're not all. They're not between the tackles runs, but he's averaging 9.3 yards per tote this year on 9 carries, 84 yards, and a touchdown. Now, part of that is one of them was 65 yards. But still, we're not going to dive deep into that. Point is, there is a world where you could see him start to get involved in the running game. I'd love to see what happens with that this week. I definitely think it's a possibility. So yes, I see a world where he gets more involved in this rushing attack for the Aggies, the true freshman. But I don't think it's a ton. I think you would see him get 3 or 4 carries. I think it's going to be Amari Daniels and EJ Smith. And I think that obviously EJ Smith's going to get some work, But I think that Amari Daniels is going to be your guy, and I think he's going to get fed. That's just the feeling I have. Now, obviously, Amari Daniels isn't the biggest running back at 5'9", but he's built, he's strong, and he'll be able to handle a big workload. So that will be interesting. But this is a really, really tough loss for this football team, a bad loss. But you are lucky and fortunate to have a solid couple more guys behind a Le'Veon Moss and behind a Reuben Owens to where you are in a spot where you can still make something happen here. After the loss to South Carolina, where does Texas A&M go from here when it comes to finishing out the season? We're going to talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Roy. Hey, Locked On Aggies fans, it's time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we've pulled over $20,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change with the Roy app. You can direct your support to the athletes you love, ensuring that all funds go to the specific player you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going, and you even receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part, it's risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content, you get your money back. This week, I'm going to support Jabri Barber. Had another great year. Join me in supporting him. Even $10 makes a difference. Let's show Jabri Barber the love and keep him connected to our school. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets your team up for success. Plus, don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway. Win 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and enter code LOCKEDON, and you're entered. Already on Roy, any contribution to an athlete's campaign also gets you entered automatically. No purchase necessary, void, or prohibited. Download Roy now and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. And be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy_return_on_you for more info. Roy, support the players, change the game. Also, want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $500 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL and, of course, the Locked On Podcast Network. Where do you go from here? Where does Texas A&M go from here? They, of course, it's been a strong start to the season. The South Carolina loss hurts. It makes the Texas game now even more important than it was. And, we're not going to beat around the bush and act like the Texas game wasn't already incredibly important. This is a game now against, here's the deal. You got to play New Mexico State. You got to play Auburn. I know weird things happen for Auburn. I know that they just find ways to get random wins at home. I know that's all reality. I just don't. I told y'all all week that I was worried about the South Carolina team. I don't think South Carolina and Auburn are in the same time zone. For a while, I thought Auburn was a great, terrible football team, if that makes any sense. I thought they were a team that was bad, but they're going to have random games where they show up and play well and win. And then I think they beat Kentucky and people went, oh, maybe. No, I think Kentucky's just terrible too. I think that was two terrible, terrible teams, going at it. So I'm not saying, oh, okay, whatever. It's just the Auburn game. We're going to win the game by 50. But I'm not. I definitely don't share the same concern that I have right now for this, that I had for the South Carolina game, for this Auburn game. So basically, you are setting yourself up for a win and in game against Texas if you beat New Mexico State and you beat Auburn, which I think knowing, and there's a chance. I mean, let's pull up the Texas. Texas has another tough game, and I forget who it is. Never mind. Why did I think that they played? There's I don't know why I thought they still out of. I mean, Florida. You're not worried about that. At Arkansas, I mean, maybe that'll be tougher than I imagined, but I don't think so. Kentucky at home for Texas. I'm going to be actually at that game. Is not a tough one. So no, I mean, basically Texas should be a 10-1 heading into that game, unless I'd say something crazy happens on the road against Arkansas. Reason that's important is, I mean, this is going to be this game. It would have stunk if Texas A&M was, they'd be 11 games into the year if they were 6-5 heading into this game, where if you win, you go 7-5. If you lose, you go 6-6. Like that would have stunk. That wouldn't have been any fun. We all knew Texas was going to be great this year. I don't think a lot of people expected what this Texas A&M team has been this year. Knowing that Texas A&M has, I mean, already to this point, really outperformed expectations. I mean, this team has been really, really solid. I've been impressed with what they've done this year. And I mean, especially, with Texas A&M, you've had a swinging door at quarterback. You've lost some important players on offense. You've lost some important players on defense, as every team has. But this team has been solid. They fought some adversity. I think there's a lot of teams that have fought more adversity. I think Texas A&M, once again, I think they've been pretty lucky on most of these fronts. But I mean, if you beat Auburn and you beat New Mexico State, that game, you're going to be 9-2 heading into that Texas game, where you at home at Kyle Field, you win and you make the college football playoff. I mean, I don't know what more you could ask for the revival of that rivalry. I don't think there's anything more you could ask for. That is going to be an incredibly special game. And I believe that's what's going to be on the line for Texas A&M. I mean, all you have to do is take care of business against a really bad Auburn football team on the road. And I think that's doable. And if you do that, and listen, I don't know. I told you, I just never had a great feeling about that South Carolina game. Once they were coming off, the bye, and they were feeling good and they were playing well. And they were, I never felt good about that game once we got to game week, especially after the win, against LSU. They were obviously coming off of the bye week. They got a huge win over Oklahoma. They had a bye week. Never felt good about that game against South Carolina. Those concerns came to fruition. And now you look at this Texas A&M team. I mean, because here's the deal. If you're, isn't that what we would be 8-1 because we're 7-2, right? Why am I blanking on how many games we played? Yes, so we're 7-2. You'd be 8-1 if you win that game. All you got to do then is beat New Mexico State, beat Auburn, and I believe you're in the playoff, regardless of what happens against Texas. Now, there's no such thing as taking that Texas game off. We got a great comment on the show yesterday saying, now, obviously, I don't think these players would have had any issue getting hyped up for the Texas game, even if it didn't really matter. But now, I mean, there's going to be no question that this game is going to be exciting. This is just going to be great for college football. I mean, this is just going to be a ton of fun in general for college football. And, this rivalry is back. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be great for the game of college football. And I think, assuming you take care of business, this is going to be a win and in game for the Aggies. If you would have asked me 5 months ago, would I take a win and in game against Texas this season for the playoff, I would have said, heck, not yes, but heck yes. You know what I mean? That's how exciting this is. This is great. The Aggies are putting themselves in a great spot. So my point is, don't be super discouraged after this loss to South Carolina. It hurts. It stinks. I think you ran into a bit of a buzzsaw. It feels like you ran into that team that on the road that was hitting all their three-pointers in the Sweet 16, the random. You ran into, Delaware, then they're nailing the threes in the tournament, and you lose. That is what you ran into with South Carolina. I think South Carolina is a really underrated football team, and I think you caught them on a bad night at home. So I still believe in this team, and that's my point is you beat Auburn and you beat Texas, you're going to make college football playoff in year one of your new coach, and that should get people fired up. We're going to play the hypothetical game. Let's say you lose to Texas. You beat Auburn, you beat New Mexico State, and you finish 9-3. Would that be deemed a successful year one for Coach Elko? I'm going to tell you coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. Z-Biotic pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. This byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. This has been a life changer for me, taking this Z-Biotics pre-alcohol drink. You know, I mean, me and the fellas, we enjoy drinking some cold beers, and you know, I mean, and there's nothing worse than doing that on a Saturday and waking up Sunday morning and just feeling that, you know, you're feeling not great, feeling like it's hard to get up, and feeling like it's tough to be productive. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink has been a game changer for me. Here's how to use it. For best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 1. Step 2, drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. Step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to zbiotics.com/LockedOnCollege to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege at checkout for 15% off. So, would 9-3 in year one under Mike Elko be a success? I think it's a resounding yes. I think that where we're at now, knowing you got the wins over LSU and Missouri, you know, we talked about the path the offseason was take care of business against Auburn and South Carolina, Mississippi State on the road, obviously Arkansas. Take care of business in those games, right? And if you do that in Florida, if you take care of business in those games and you just go 2-2 against Notre Dame, LSU, Missouri, and Texas, you're in the playoff. Knowing that you are worst case scenario now going to go 2-2 in those games, you've lost Notre Dame, you beat LSU, you beat Missouri. So you're currently 2-1. You still play Texas. If you go 2-2 in those games and don't make the playoff, it'd be a little painful, knowing you really did what you were asked for against your solid, you know, ranked opponents. I did not expect South Carolina. I expected that to be a tough game, a tough game to go on the road and win, but I did not expect South Carolina to be as good as they've kind of been this year. And that always happens. There's always a team like that. I mean, look at Vandy. I mean, this always happens in college football. This always happens in the SEC. But, you know, if Texas A&M, especially if they go, so would 9-3 once again be a successful season? Lost to Texas, 9-3, and then I think that, yes, it'd be even better if you won your bowl game and win, you know, 10-3 with the bowl game win. I think it's a resounding yes. I also think that this schedule was super manageable. Next year, it's going to be tougher. You got to go play at LSU. You got to go play in Austin. You got to go play against Notre Dame. You got to go play against, you know, Columbia against Missouri. There's some tough road games that come next year. Your schedule next year is much tougher, but I still believe this team's going to be really talented. I believe that you're going to have more figured out clarity-wise at quarterback. I think Coach Elko is going to do another great job of seeing what he needs in the portal and going to get guys. He's already recruiting at a high level when it comes to the high school ranks. So next year's going to be tougher, but yeah, I would right now. You want to go 10-2 and make the playoff. There's no debate. There's no question. That's what you want to do. But I also think Texas A&M is in a spot where if you went 9-3 and won your bowl game, you would feel pretty good about year one under Coach Elko. So that's how I feel. 10 seconds of basketball talk. The team lost their first game of the year on the road against UCF 64-61. Not an ideal start to the season, knowing that Houston blows you out in a exhibition game, and then you lose your first game of the year to UCF. Wade Taylor IV really struggled in this game. 4 of 15 from the field and 4 of 11 from deep. He's just not an efficient night for your star player. Tough way to start the year. We're not going to spend a ton of time on basketball, but we'll talk about it when it's relevant. Tough start to the year for the basketball team. No question there. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. I really, really appreciate it. I hope everyone has a great rest of their day today. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Helps the show a ton. Hit the like button. Also helps the show. And then if you're on a podcast platform, subscribe there as well. Leave 5 stars. All of those things help the show on those platforms as well. Really appreciate y'all being here. Everyone have a great rest of their day today, and we will see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.